So the issues are, what are the major education issues? First, you have to, the first mention must be about periodic labor force survey, PLFS. This is very important. This is what you have to first mention. The problem is employability with respect to graduates. Graduation is happening, after that employability is very less. So employment rate with respect to graduates, that's one point that you have to write. Now, what are the issues of employment? First one is intense lockdown. Because of severe lockdown, what happened is people have graduated actually without going to college. Children have finished their school without going to school. So, and everything was online, and you all know what is the quality of online education that has been provided. So based on these factors, since during that time, those who have graduated from school, college, as well as professional degrees, the quality is very less. Therefore, it became a big risky thing for their employability. They are not fit to be employed in any of the sector because nothing has actually happened. So that is a major issue. So keeping that in mind, intense lockdown is one reason. And quality of online education, as I said, there's a huge learning loss which happened. And long hours of screen, this will create mental problems, will create psychological problems, not mental, psychological. And because of these psychological problems, there were huge learning deficiencies, because there's only one kind of pedagogy which runs, and because of which there's a huge reduction in the learning deficiencies. These are the major points that you have to write for your mains answer. Next, what are the structural issues? Structural issues is, whenever there is a downfall, the private sector always takes an advantage of it by giving them a lot of profit. So that is when the private sector expansion has happened, and because of which lot of problems have popped up. So in this slide, these are very important. Next, problem is, another major problem is lack of regulation. When I say lack of regulation, you have to think in terms of UGC grants, central government, state government's roles and responsibilities with respect to higher education. So the problem was lockdown, political changes, all these things have created a lot of lack of regulations with respect to UGC, central government, state government and local governments. All of them had a place and none of them actually did something. Now another major problem is traditional agriculture. Though a lot of people are moving towards agriculture, it is still not mechanized yet. Still, it is the same old technological structure which are still working, and I don't think it's a great idea. Next, problem is limited opportunities in the economy. Now, another major reason is, please, this you have to mention this. India spends only about 0.7% of its GDP, which is a very less thing. While at the same time, Korea, if you look at Korea and US, all of them spend close to, Korea spends 4%. Among the developing countries, South Korea spends about 4% of their GDP, while India is spending 0.7%, and with having 3/4 of the population being youth. And you know about US spends close to 10 to 15, 20% exclusively on R&D, and that is the reason why a lot of research and all these things takes place. So public-private imbalance is there. So R&D expenditure, non-private sector is comparatively very less than the public sector. So the points that you have to mention, and another point is limited scope for research. So universities are not given enough grants, though the students have the brains and the technology and the inquisitiveness about finding an invention. End of the day, it boils down to money, and that particular money is not being funded by the governments into the University Grants Commission. So that's not happening. And the major another factor why it is not working out is low female labor. So this is another point that you have to mention. So the points that you have to mention is traditional agriculture, opportunity that's not there, R&D very less, public-private partnership also very less, limited scope of resource and low female labor. These are the major points that you have to write with respect to why the quality is very less. And moving on, what are the other concerns? Concerns with examination system, please, this is another point that you have to write, examination system. Even today, rote learning, that is by heart, without understanding the concept, a lot of people mug up even mathematics and write the answers. So that kind of system should get away as soon as possible. Next, decentralized assessment. The problem with decentralized assessment is, uh, you have to understand one thing. What they are trying to do is, they are trying to bring all the assessment system into one platform, and they want to test all the students on a one platform thing. It's like the concept of one nation, one nation, one examination kind of mode. So they're thinking of this. So the problem is when you require one examination and one nation and one examination, idea is beautiful, but when you come to the implementable levels with respect to pragmatism, please try to understand students come from different backgrounds. The pedagogy styles of different teachers is very different. The school structures are very different. The social structures are very different, structures are very different. When so many differences are there between the students, one nation one examination, though it is a brilliant idea, I don't think it is going to give, it is a justificable way to make sure that students get equitable education. So that problem will always be there. So we have to think of that. And another problem is inconsistency with question papers having errors. That's another thing. And mismatch between skills and certification. The best example I can give you is with respect to engineers. Today we can see so many engineers with so many degrees and all that, but look at the employability level of engineers. Everyone is working except engineering services. They are doing all other services. So that is the situation. And alternative assessment. So the institutional certification have their own methods of assessing. That is another problem that we are facing. And most important thing is pure physical support. Target is they want to reach 50% enrollment in schools as well as other education sectors by 2035. As of now, it is at 27%. But from 27%, if it has to go from 50%, lot of funding is required. Lot of schemes have to be brought in. Lot of things that has to be done by the government. All of things will take a lot of place. So that's a problem. So next, as I said, this is okay done. And you know how we have to go ahead. New education policy is also there. It recommended common admission basis for students, but was contradicted by the introduction of central university entrance test and idea of one nation one examination. So this is another challenge that we are facing. The new education policy, as I said, it requires a huge platform and base for equitable competition first. When there is equitable competition, then you can put one examination for the whole nation. But with so many diversities with respect to people, so many social changes, structural changes, educational changes, pedagogical changes, and with poor physical support, I don't think this is a great idea with respect in the new education policy. So keeping moving ahead, what is the solution? Universities have to be funded, that is one thing. Class 10 and class 10 should be given vocational training because their studies should be useful in some purpose to at least meet the basic needs of the family. Next, promoting inclusiveness and equity. India should have dedicated industrial policy, manufacturing strategy, and economic development, all with respect to the education of the students, of the youth. The problem is a lot of people only study, there is a lot of investment which happens, there is a lot of money which is spent, but end of the day the employability has been a great factor. So for that to happen, I think this has to change. And professional bodies can be involved in curriculum design, that's another thing that has to be done. And external audit for the examinations as well as universities must be provided so that to bring out the best quality in the universities. So these are the major points. So solutions, universities funding, vocational courses, India should have dedicated, you make sure that the industry, manufacturing and all these things are related to the education that you're studying, and professional for curriculum design, and external audit for assessment of examinations. If you can do all these things, I think we can go ahead with respect to better higher education system structures.